So let me just move these chats. I don't like the presenter view. So this is business entrepreneurship, and this is basically how business entrepreneurship is. Anyone can be an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter where you come from, how much money you have. It's all about having an idea and having the drive to make it possible, because you don't have to, be rich to start a business. It is helpful if you have, capital to make a business, but it doesn't mean that, if you only have $5 to your name, you can do something with it. So that is basically what this is. And I know the biggest thing about this year is that, funds are very tight. A lot of businesses are not giving money. Like I know for a fact, Boeing is not giving a lot of money to FRC. I don't even think they are giving any money, which is a huge sponsorship loss for FRC, who typically, if you don't know, have to raise $5,000 just to do their entrance fee. And that is kind of, when you look at it, I think most FTC teams run on about $1,000 to $2,000. So it's not outrageous, but to a lot of people, that's a lot of money to just come up with, and it kind of is a bummer when you can't buy the new motors or you can't buy the new technology. I remember still seeing some teams without the new Rev Hub just because they said, oh, we don't have the funds. And it was kind of between paying for registration or paying for the new Rev Hub, because that's about equivalent. So I really do want to try to encourage people to figure out other ways to get money, because I think the traditional ways of finding money through sponsorships is going to be way harder this year, because so many businesses are already they're not going to have those extra funds. So the next one, just a quick background about me. If you didn't know, I'm not a STEM major. I know a lot of people think I'm a STEM major. People think I'm an engineer. I guess people also don't know how old I am sometimes. I'm only 23. So I've been doing this for a while. I've been in first for 10 years. I started on Kings and Queens, but then as the years have gone on, I joined the committee when I was 18. So I don't know where the 21 came into factor, but I was 18 and I've just stayed with it. I'm in my master's program for urban and regional planning. Essentially, that's where you learn how to be a planner for a city or a nonprofit. But that's mostly what I do. It's kind of a lot of different things, but my main thing is business, and that was what I was good at on the team. I did a lot of different things because my team was only like 4 people, so you kind of had to do everything. But back then it was a lot different. Like CAD was not really a thing. It was kind of a thing, but it wasn't to what it is now. Like you didn't have to do it for awards. You could do hand drawing, and that was pretty acceptable. I've also, because of what I've done in robotics, though, that's how I also became a consultant for the entertainment industry. If you've ever seen the show The Fosters, I did 3 episodes for that, and there's a big like FRC one in there, but there's also like a smaller FTC one in season 4. I think I'm in episode 8 very briefly. I think it's kind of funny that they did a close-up on me because I didn't expect that, but I think that's funny. Most recently, before the pandemic hit, I was doing a show called Blackish, which is also, I don't know if anyone's seen Blackish. I think it's on prime time. I've never seen half the shows. So, but that's because of connections, which I'm going to go into later, because when you're looking for a job, you could be the best at whatever the job is, but it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily get it if you don't know someone. And you might see people get jobs or get promotions over you, and you're like, why are they doing this? Because they're not as good as me, or we're the same. And it's honestly usually comes down to, do they know someone, or are they connected in the world of people, so that's my advice. So business background, I started when I was 15. You probably can see slightly in the background of my screen right now, there's a bunch of shoes. Those boxes right there, those are shoes. I like collecting shoes. I've sold shoes. I just like shoes. But I specialize in video games. It's kind of random. I collected video games as a kid. I still play video games. I like a lot about video games. So I got into selling them when I was 15, and it was just kind of exploded into there. There's multiple e-commerce platforms. Probably the 2 most common ones you've ever heard of are Amazon and eBay. But eBay has the reputation of using like used products, and um, you think of, oh, I'm selling my used junk online, which is pretty much true. But Amazon, I guess, is more refined. A lot of people don't know that there's a lot of third-party sellers on Amazon. So when you buy on Amazon, if it doesn't say Prime, it's probably from a third-party company. And even if you do buy from Prime, it still doesn't mean you're not buying from a different company. That's called drop shipping. I work for a shoe company now that we do drop shipping. So when you buy something on Walmart or Macy's, that's our product, we're the ones shipping it and we're the ones delivering it to you. It's not Macy's and it's not Walmart. They don't have anything to do with those. But a lot of people don't know that. And then there's other independent apps like StockX and Depop. Those are more for clothing because that's been a really big expansion. So that is also why knowledge is key, because the more products you know about and the more stuff you know about, the more likely you'll be able to figure out what you can sell or what you can do to earn money, because that is how you learn about different things. Like, I don't really like makeup, but I know about it. I read about, the Jeffree Star collections. I've read about the Kendall Jenner collections. I don't really care, but I keep up with it just because it is a big marketplace. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll sell makeup. I don't know, but it's kind of just how much do you know and how can you use that to sell things? Because I do more product selling. I'm not really good at the service ones as much, but I do know people that do make thousands of dollars on some sites just because they know how to do like a weird thing. There's a video about a guy who drew memes, and he made like $30,000 off his memes just because people were paying him $5 to make a meme about someone. And weird stuff like that is what I want to encourage people to do, because anyone can do it, because you can do it at your house and you just kind of like work through that. So the next one is, this is very brief. This is just pictures. This is some of my video games. This is what I used to do. It used to be in this office before I cleared it out. Thankfully, I got a storage unit because I had so many. I sell probably an inventory over right now. There's probably over 3,000 to 4,000 unique items at this point. So that's just brief. I'm not the best at organization, but I do try to keep it organized as much as possible. This is just brief pictures of me on consulting jobs, just behind the scenes, because I thought they looked cool. Those robots are actually Kings and Queens robots that they use for demos underneath them for the Modern Family bots. So I think that's kind of funny. That actually broke the robots too. They broke the motors because they're like, make them go faster. So they smoked out the motors. Not fun. But they just, that was very fascinating to watch them smoke out motors. So how to start? First thing you want to do is figure out what are you interested in, what are you good at? Because if you're going to start a company or you're going to start selling something, you should like it and you should know about it. If you're going in completely blind, you're going to have to do so much more research to sell it, because you got to know the marketplace. You got to know who is going to want to buy your product. So I focus on video games. That's typically the average range is probably like $10 to $20 for a video game, right? That's very, very cheap in the world of selling things. Same with clothing. You'll sell a shirt for like $10, $20. That's pretty common. Most people have $10 to $20 that they're like, that's not a big deal. But when you get into like shoes, if you're selling, the brand new Yeezys, those typically are a couple $100s to up towards of $1,000. So you're looking at a different marketplace where I'm assuming all of you guys, you would spend $10 to $20 on whatever you want, whether it be, that's like going out to a restaurant and getting food with your friends. That's probably how much you spend on average. Where, if you're going to want to buy a new cell phone, you're going to be like, oh, that's $500. That's a lot of money. So that's kind of how you start. And you have to think about it. How do I figure out which one I want to do and what I want to do? So the next is to set yourself a goal. So because you guys are on teams, and because I'm assuming it's probably not going to be like a long-term thing, that if you break it down, so if you have 10 people on your team, right, and everyone brings in $100, that's $1,000 right there. But even then, that can seem like a lot of money. But then when you break it down even more to be, okay, everyone has to bring in, I don't know, $5 a day. That's a lot more manageable to think, oh, I need to make $5 today or save $5. So that's why I said, setting a goal for yourself will make it seem a lot less daunting, because also you're doing school and you're doing, robotics, you're doing a lot of other things, and it helps you not get overwhelmed with the negatives also of, hey, I didn't make $1,000 this month. I'm so disappointed in myself. because a lot of this is self-motivation. I've always worked by myself. I've never hired anyone. I did this while I was in school. I would come home from school and start and just do listings and shipping, and that was my life. I did that though as my choice. I don't, no one told me to do it. That was my personal interest and my personal goal. But it also helps in sense of, because you had your teams, if you maybe made two people, their job is to figure out what to sell or make stuff, it also creates a kind of sense of, oh, it's not all on my shoulders. I did fundraisers for like classrooms, and they, no one else knew how to do it, so I had to do it, but it was kind of a learning process as well. So after this, so for running groceries, there's two types that I broke it down to. Goods are, physical items that you can sell. So like a lemonade stand is probably the easiest example that most people can relate to. You sell a glass of lemonade for 50 cents. There's 50 cents. You sold them something. Service is more, I think, more what teams can probably do, because a lot of you guys have skills like CAD, programming, stuff people want, because it's usually something that other people don't want to do. It's like mowing someone's lawn. Most people can physically mow their own lawn, but they don't want to, so they pay someone to do it. That is where you find those weird niches of people that pay other people to like wash their car or, take out the trash. Like, even if you have siblings, that's kind of the stuff of service industry. And that's also, I think, easier to expand as long as you have time. Or goods, like my income for my business relies on people buying stuff. So right now there's a big economic downturn. Granted, when the coronavirus first hit, I did probably quadruple the amount of sales I usually would do in that time frame, because everyone was bored at home. So both are dependent on outside factors, but I would say a service is more towards, I would say, consistent, as long as you're offering something that's like needed, where goods can go into either, I do quantity, so I focus on quantity sales versus quality, in the sense of I'm trying to sell you a $10,000 painting, but if I only sell one painting, I get $10,000. So goods are more, I think, risky also, because you have to keep them at your house or keep them in a place to store them. And once you get to a big enough point, it could be way too much and it can be overwhelming. When I moved back home, my mom was like, you have to figure out where to put all this stuff, because it's not going in my room, in your room. So that's a big, and I still have too much stuff. So next, research. Research is everything. You have to figure out what you're going to sell and what you're going to do. So you need to know your marketplace. I have some lists of it. My biggest thing I learned all this off of YouTube. I would just watch YouTube videos. I still watch YouTube videos about everything. I still watch the most current videos. I watch other people, what they sell. It's a constant learning, because I mean, being in it for 8 years, it's kind of, the whole market has changed. New stuff comes out. Other stuff is in. What's in now? Like records. They had the biggest sale of records in the last 20 years, since like the 1980s, because people are starting to want them again. So that marketplace is going crazy. And are DVDs going to be like that? I don't know. But the DVD market is not the same as back in the early 2000s, when you would see hundreds of DVDs everywhere. You see people bootlegging them. You see people selling them. It's different. And then the other thing is I highly suggest you read the news, because the news, even just the headlines, I do not read all the news, but I just read headlines, because headlines influence people, because most people are not going to read articles longer than like a minute. But when you read, headlines, it's very fast information. It's very easy to get something out. So when people are saying, Tesla does this, the Tesla stock responds to that, even if it's not true, or if it's not true or not accurate, people still are going to respond to that, because the majority of people are going to just read the first couple sentences. So that's kind of how you have to figure out what is this business, and you can kind of figure out the market of it very briefly. The other thing is COG is cost of goods. That's how much stuff's are going to cost. So usually with like service industry, it's more, that's your time. So what is the value of an hour of your time? And then for products, it's, I have a big record of, I'll show you later, like of everything, what it sells for, the fees and all of that stuff. Also your overhead, this is more for if you get big enough. So I was 15 and then I turned 16 and then I got a tax form and then I didn't know how to fill out taxes. I did not keep good records. I did not do good accounting. So I owed $8,000 to the government. And I actually owed more, but I paid 5,000 originally, but I still owed them 8 grand. So you gotta really keep records of your stuff. If you only sell like $1,000, $2,000, you're not gonna get taxed. You have to make over $12,000 in profit to get taxed as an individual. But the government does not care if you are under 18 or not. You're gonna get taxed, and because you can be whatever age you can to earn money. And then expenses, like I take off my phone because I use my phone for work and like my computers, internet, all stuff like that. But for you guys, it might be like if you buy stuff, unless if it's donated, if I make a bunch of cookies, you're gonna have to know how much all those ingredients cost. It's gonna be probably very low, where the price of a cookie is probably like 5 cents if you made 100 cookies. But you have to know, you have to think like that. You have to think, oh, how much is this gonna cost me? But then also making cookies, that's gonna take you, I don't know, like 30 minutes to make a cookie, like in the complete cycle of a cookie. 30 minutes probably to an hour if you like do all the frosting and the ingredients. So you have to know and be aware of that type of thinking to know if you to what you're going to do. So next, you have an idea. So where are you going to sell your stuff? The biggest platforms are probably eBay, Amazon, because you can also start as an individual. You don't have to have like a business license. You don't have to have all this stuff. You can just start. Where same with services. I'll show you the website. Fiverr is really popular now. The concept was you pay someone $5 and they do a task for you. That's what you sell. You sell services. So I'll show you a couple examples later, but there's other ones. When I do consulting, it's basically private consulting. People contact us over the phone or in emails, and then you just talk. It's very random and it's very sometimes low-key sketchy. Because with the entertainment industry, people send you emails and it's really weird and you don't know where they're from and you're just like, who is this person? So you have to look into who are these people, and you don't want to do any work for free. Like you don't want to make this whole elaborate project and not get paid because the person's like, oh, I don't want to go with you, or I'm not, I don't want to work with you. Oh, I just was like looking. So you need to make sure you dig for information if you do private work, or it's where it's like a 50% you pay up front and then it's like, then you get the other 50% when the job's complete. That's more contract stuff. I don't really think many people will do that, but that's just how that works. And you have to be more careful, where if you're selling a good, basically people pay with their credit card and then you get the money. It's a lot more simpler. So before you want to start too, you have to think about all the fees it costs. So with eBay, I pay 20%, usually 20 to 25% of fees go directly to eBay. So if I sell something for $20, probably my actual net profit is probably around $12, $13, hit or miss. So a lot of people think, oh, when you see people online, they're like, I sold $1 million worth of goods. That's great. But if everything cost to actually sell that good $999,000, you only really made $1,000, which is not impressive. And that's not good. That's terrible margins. So I usually try to make sure my margins are at least 30%. I know a lot of people do more. Some people do less, but that's because if they're doing hundreds of thousands of volume, that's kind of, it just depends on what you're doing. And then how do you tell people? That's why if you go with like bigger sites like eBay, you don't really have to worry about the marketing aspect because it's not like unknown, where if you use like a site like Shopify, no one knows you're Shopify. So if I made amandasullivan.com, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Where, if you go on, let's see, Gucci.com, everyone knows what Gucci is. I'm not saying they're actually part of a bigger brand. So I think it's in a different URL now. But it's kind of like, if you want to build up like a Shopify account, you really have to push on social media, or a lot of people pay for advertisements. That's why that's how companies like Facebook make money, is on advertisements. And that's why you'll probably, if you have a Facebook or Instagram, you're probably seeing a bunch of targeted ads towards you from whenever you look up, if you're really into soccer, you'll probably see a bunch of soccer ads. If you follow the Lakers, you'll probably be seeing a lot of Laker ads. So it's kind of all that. Those ads though cost thousands and thousands of dollars to just target you, because they're trying to capture 3% conversion rate of people buying stuff. But that's why would say it's better to pay the 20% than paying, you know, close to nothing, but no one goes to your site. So accounting, back to what I was saying about accounting, you need to keep record of everything that you spend. So I use Excel. I know other people probably use other things, but Excel is the most common. If you learn Excel also at a younger age, it will help you get a job, because most jobs require, if you're to use Excel or to know how to do Excel. So the faster you learn about Excel is probably going to be better for you in the long run. It also just helps you manage finances in terms of money. It's a lot easier to deal with and a lot easier to know, in my opinion, about about stuff like that. So cost of goods, how much are you spending, and the time compared, like I was talking about before, it really depends, but I keep track of my hours just out of curiosity. It's more if, you know, you also want to make sure you're not undercharging. So if you're doing, you know, a business and you're only charging people $5, but it's taking you 3 hours to do something, that's terrible, because that's like $1.33 an hour. Minimum wage and federal minimum wage is $7.75 an hour. And I think in California, it's, depending on your area, it's usually between 10 to 15. So I would say if you just want to make minimum wage, to at least charge that, because that's how much your time is worth. Next, robotics. So like I was telling you guys have skills, you guys have resources. A lot of you know how to program. A lot of you know how to do CAD, which is actually a huge industry. My friend didn't go to college, but he works in a bunch of CAD stuff. He was working for, I think, Star Wars Land. He was doing some of the CAD for that, and he's worked with different firms. Same with like some of your teams. I know not all teams are structured like this, but some teams are, where there's like a business department, there's a building department, there's whatever. And it does kind of translate to, you could take that format and form it into your own business. But also tutoring. Tutoring actually pays really well. My friend would get like $50 to tutor someone in calculus. And she would just like sit there with the kid and teach them stuff, like help them with their homework. I know tutoring is a lot different though now because of COVID, but a lot of people are looking for private tutoring just because they want that extra help for their kids. So I would say that's probably the most common when you're young, is to do tutoring or babysitting, but I think babysitting is kind of out now just because of the whole COVID thing. But tutoring is probably, I think, the easiest to do, just because a lot of people want that. And as long as you know something about it, that's pretty easy. Or you know people. So let's make a business. I'm just going to do CAD because it's easiest. So I'm going to switch to, I'll show you after I finish this presentation, but it's kind of how I was saying, you have to look at what other people are selling, because you're not the first person to come up with this idea, and you're also not the last person to come up with this idea. So you want to figure out how much are you worth. There's strategies of, I'm going to be like the lowest price, which is called race to the bottom. That's when you charge, you know, the lowest price, but you want, because you want the reviews, or you want the feedback, or you just want jobs. Other people, they think, oh, I'm more experienced, I'm going to charge maybe $50 for the same service. That's when you have to determine, based on your own skills and what you think you can accomplish, that. And then how much time will it take? That's also what you have to factor in. If you do a job, you don't tell them, oh, this is only going to take me like 15 minutes. I'm still going to charge them $30. But if it's going to take you 3 hours, you probably shouldn't charge $30. So it's kind of like, you don't want to put all your cards on the table and tell them, oh, yeah, the CAD job you want, it's only going to take me like 10 minutes. You don't want to tell them that. You just want to be like, okay, my hourly rate is $30. And whatever time it takes for you, that's great if it's only a 15-minute job. But if it's, you know, a 3-hour job, you want to be good at estimating how long it's going to take you, because your time is valuable, and that's what they're in exchange for money. So then products, this is the other way you could do it. What is trending, what is popular right now? Like a lot of people right now, if you've ever heard of like Supreme, which is a branded company, and they make different shirts that say Supreme, and they like put Supreme logos on random stuff. Like I think they did the Supreme brick. That was very interesting, but it sold out, and people, because it's hype, and you could think it's dumb, you could not like it, but if you follow it, you kind of are like, oh, I could resell this. That's why a lot of people resell shoes right now. Shoes are very in the sense of Jordans, Off-White, stuff like that. There's a market for it, and people have money to spend in that market. So that's also with capital, like to buy all this stuff, it costs a lot of money. So with products, you have to usually have some capital. When I started my business, I had about $1,000 from birthdays and whatever. So it was an investment. And I remember when I first bought my first thing, it was like, I don't know, $100. And I was like freaking out because I was like, that's so much money. And do I have enough? And do like, where, with a service, it's more you're just providing time. So you don't have to really worry as much about that. And then these are all those kind of questions you have to think about, like I talked about before, of what you should think about if you're going to sell a product. It's kind of also how expensive is it? Because if you're selling cookies, just to buy cookie mix and all that stuff is probably under $20. But if you're trying to sell like actual items, you're gonna have to spend money. So I do encourage, to really think about it and what you're gonna do. So the pros and cons. The best thing about it is you can be your own boss and you can have your own free time. I chose to not go to college in the traditional way. I chose to go to community college, and I chose to go to a local community, Cal State. But in turn, I don't have any student debt. I won't have any student debt for my master's. I traveled the world. So it's, I prioritize over that. And that was more what I wanted to do. But I never got like the college opportunity of like, meeting people your own age, hanging out with people, going to dorms, that whole lifestyle. I've never experienced it. And you kind of have to, that's also with a business. I stayed also because I wanted to run my business, because I was doing very well and I could afford things that I figured that I couldn't, do if I was going to a college and having to pay all that and like rooming fees and all that jazz. It's definitely a trade-off, and you have to think like that when you're starting a business. What is my trade-off? So the other thing is being your own boss. It also means you have to motivate yourself. If you're not motivated for a day, that's on you. A lot of businesses, it's what you put in is what you get out. So if you only spend an hour on it, don't expect to be making, thousands of dollars. If you're putting 10 hours a week, you have a higher likelihood of making $1,000, but that doesn't mean you're going to make $1,000. It's just how much are you going to work? I've worked 10 hours a day. I've worked 1 hour a day. It just really depends. The other thing is what I personally just don't like about it is the income fluctuates. Some months are way better. So like Q4, that's a reference to, the Christmas season. So Q4 is coming up because of Christmas, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all those type of things, which is usually where a lot of retailers make the most money. So with that, it's kind of also you need to, for me, I have a full-time job now too as well. So I actually work about 60 hours a week because I personally want stable income and I want a stable paycheck. Some people are very okay though with the whole flexibility thing of some weeks they make $5,000 and some weeks they make $100. Some people are very okay with that lifestyle. I'm not, but that's, that is the thing about being your own boss because they can choose. Sometimes they want to go on vacation. They go on vacation for 2 weeks. They don't have to tell anyone. They don't have to find time off. They don't have to worry about it. But it is a very big balancing act about your life. So the conclusion, starting a business is easy conceptually, but a lot harder to put into practice. It is definitely where you should really think about it and also have the time and the resources to stick with it. Because if you do all this and then you never follow through, you kind of just wasted a bunch of people's time. And also if you promise people stuff, you have to follow through. If you promise someone you're going to make them something, you can't then say, oh, never mind. That's not good business and that's not good practicing in general. So the other way that the other very brief thing I was going to talk about is investments. The stock market is a very long tail thing if you do it, but it is a way if you have extra money to just see and let it ride. I've done that with a couple ones. I put it into the satellite company. I've returned like $200 on it right now because I bought it at like $5 and now it's up to like 28. But researching that, it's, that this has taken, I think I bought them almost 2 years ago. So in 2 years, I made $200. Whoopee. But that is another way how to make money in the sense of if you want something long tail and you just want to do like, you have extra money just invested in something. Some of my friends that I used to work with, they would take some of their paycheck and just stick it in the stock market and, let it ride is what we would say. Some people did that with Apple, and that's why stocks, I think, are very good in terms of long tail investments or stuff about it. I think the biggest one you guys probably know about is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is very, very volatile, very, very random, but a lot of people made a lot of money off Bitcoin. Some people like when I was in high school, that was when Bitcoin was a joke, and it was like, hey, I'll pay you in Bitcoin for this pizza. But it went up to I think $18,000 a Bitcoin, and some of my friends back in the day had like 10 Bitcoin because they would just joke around. So now, cryptocurrency is very huge. There's a lot of new cryptocurrency on the market. I can't tell you how it works. I've been to conferences about it, but I couldn't tell you how it works. But that's how but that's like a trend, and if you read about it and you think, oh, that's a good investment, it's kind of worth it to look at it. It's the same with Disneyland right now. I have a stock in Disney, but I wanted to see because Disney is going through a lot right now, and it's very volatile in the sense of they keep saying they'll open up, then they say they won't, then people get mad, then they keep, different parks are opening. So that's a news thing, but that translates to their stock. Everything translates back to their stock. I use Robinhood. It's the app. It's very easy to use. I think the only thing you have to have is a bank account linked to it, but I would say you could just watch videos about it. I actually was 10 when I got a stock market account because my mom was like, "Sure, I'll indulge you in your passion or your interest." So I was a kind of a weird kid, but my mom was also very encouraging of all my strange hobbies. So I would encourage to, even just take a look at it. I used to read the newspaper and I used to read all the stock news just because I thought it was interesting. But it really does show you can start seeing trends. And a lot of great thing about YouTube is that you can use YouTube now to watch it. So you don't really have to do all the hard work and you can just watch people talk about it. It's kind of like a podcast, same thing. So that's my conclusion of it to do with that. I'm going to show you real quick how like Fiverr is. Let me see. So Fiverr, let me make sure I can share this. So this is Fiverr, very common. Let's just do, these are like the most common. I would say web design is probably the most common thing, but let's just do CAD because that was my sample. So you can see all here, you'll see, people advertising it. So you'll see this dude, he's advertising for $30. You can buy him for 3D modeling, right? This dude will do it for 20, and then this dude why is this guy charging 140? So that's where you see why are all these different people charging different prices? This guy's saying he'll do it for 30, 50. So let's click on this one. So this is his plans. He's charging $160 to do a 3D printing model, and then his premium is $900. Why is he worth $900 in my opinion? So that's when you can start researching, what is he offering? Do I know how to do this? And then, reading reviews. He only has 6 reviews, so it's probably, not as many people bought it or whatever. It seems like it's the same person like 5 times, so that's kind of interesting. So that's when you have to do your research. Let's see this guy who does $20. You can see he has way more reviews because he has 77, because probably people will pay him $20. And if it's bad, they'll just be like, oh, okay. So this guy, what he's offering, this guy, $10, 25. You can read, he has way more, it looks like legit reviews. You can see, what he's telling that he'll offer. So that's a lot of research about stuff. Fiverr is pretty easy though. Graphic design is also pretty big if you like drawing or you're into art. Same with writing, if you're into writing stuff. Usually it's more technical writing, but you can do a lot of these, making videos, all these different types of businesses and services that people offer online. Is you can really find anything. And even if you only, had one job a week and it was for $20, that's still not bad if you did it for 3 months. What is that? That's like couple $100 if you did for 10 to $20, which is a lot better than, not doing anything. And all of this can be done at your house. So it's not like you have to go anywhere. You don't have to see anyone. So that's why I think services are easier for people to get into, because usually it's stuff you already like or are good at that you'll try to do. What else is there? Then this is another one. This is Upwork. I think Upwork's a little more professional in the sense of you can't just start. But you can look at this one too. I know people use Upwork for jobs as well. This is all freelancing jobs. Just make sure if you do freelancing, you do have to keep track of how much money you get paid. But I'm assuming most of you will probably not make over $12,000, so it won't really matter. And that's my presentation about how to start a business and just some ideas. Do you guys feel free to jump in now? And if you have any questions or you think that you want to ask about certain topics, or maybe if you have an idea, you can go through. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about it or any ideas, feel free right now to unmute yourselves or put in the chat and I'll answer them. Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, find an idea would probably be the first one, or think about it with your team, is to, or think of what you're good at. Because if you have never experienced done baking and you want to start a baking company, that's probably a bad idea. Yeah. Find an idea is probably the best one, and usually it's a niche industry, because the less people that do it, the more likely you'll get a job. So like when I do consulting, the reason I do get consulting jobs is more because less people are doing it. In Hollywood, there's very few people that, I don't even know if they do, if anyone else does what we do. If anyone else does what we do, but that's why we got callbacks, in the sense of, that's why when we did the Fosters, we got referenced from the Fosters to do Modern Family, because the guy's like, oh, they do robotics and they have the resources to do robotics. So yeah, and yeah, research how many people are selling it for. Yeah, that's more product business, but if it's a service, yeah, you need to research your competition. And also, a lot of people say, oh, I have 20 years experience of doing a XYZ. Why are you better than those people? Like, why would I want to buy a Honda car over a Volkswagen? It's the same concept, because you're going to say all these things are about Honda, and then you're going to say all these things about Volkswagen, and then you're going to make a decision. So, yeah. Number 3 would probably be more figuring out where you're going to sell it, or where you're going to market it towards, and who you're going to market towards. But yeah. And then figuring it out. But good question, Andy. Any other questions or ideas about what you might want to do with these slides? Yeah, I will put the slides up in the Google Share Drive. I posted it on, it's on the Discord Slack of the link to the Share Drive on Google, and I'll put them in there. Your services with less competition. Research your services competition, just Google it. So if I want to go selling cartoon animations of The Simpsons, usually if someone's selling it, you'll probably see it online. But a lot of it's probably, if you want it, it's also on the platform you want. So if you're doing, like Fiverr, just Google it in Fiverr. If it doesn't come up, oh, someone hasn't developed it that. But it's a lot of Googling, and a lot of, I watch like social media, a lot of Instagram stuff. I'm not really into Twitter, but I have a Twitter, so I can follow certain things about people in the news. So it's kind of that, and also who wants it. So, if you're selling, like people are, cosplay is actually a big industry that people don't really know about if you're not into cosplay. But, if I am into cosplay, I look at all the different cosplayers, and I look at all the different people selling cosplay stuff. So it's kind of, that's a very niche market, but it's a big community. If I find a free crochet pattern, is it illegal to follow the pattern and sell the completed product? Yeah, so copyrighted material, you're not really supposed to do it. So like if I do the Superman logo, very common. People you'll see like on Etsy. Etsy's a very interesting platform, because it's about, usually people make stuff and they sell it. So it's like handmade goods. So if I do the Superman logo and, I sew it and then I sell that, technically it's illegal in the sense because it's a copyrighted material and it's not official. People get around that by doing like inspired by, so they do like the colors of Superman, or they do like Superman inspiration stuff. You just like change it by a slight margin. It also depends if you're doing it for contract work. Like if I'm your friend and say, hey, I want you to make this Superman logo for me, I don't think Marvel's going to come after you for selling that logo, that thing to your friend. But if you're marketing it on, your Instagram and your thing and all this and saying, oh, it's Superman, 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 that's when people start to get a little bit like, hey, that's copyrighted. I would say it's more like I can give you the pattern to do it. So yeah, you're thinking of doing Twitch streaming of just teams playing videos for fun and hopefully getting some revenue out of that. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I think it's just Twitch is kind of hard. I would say if you already have like a Twitch following, or one of your people on your team are into Twitch, like, that are already streaming, that's a pretty good idea. I think that one is a lot of social media building up and also playing popular games. So what's popular. Call of Duty is really popular right now. Fortnite, I think, is still kind of popular, but not as much. And Valorant is pretty popular right now. So, oh yeah, Among Us is pretty popular too. I don't. Among Us is like, I think, a trend though. Like, I think it will be popular for maybe a month and then it's gonna die down. Where like Valorant is kind of backed by Riot Games, which is so big into heavy into gaming that I think it's a lot more probable, of like sustaining it. Oh yeah, League is still very popular. I just think League's toxic, so I'm not really into that. So, I'm not into watching League as much, but it's kind of also, I know Twitch streamers get really popular if they're good at the game. Like if they're good at the said game, that's usually why people watch you, or you're funny. So that's kind of the big thing. So that's kind of how you deal with that. But yeah, I think Twitch is a pretty good idea because a lot of people know what Twitch is. I just know it's based off of like tipping. So you have to, and like subscribers, where people pay to subscribe to your channel. So I know to gain Twitch following, you have to be very consistent. Like people stream every night to get it, which some people play those games anyway. So, but that's kind of with Twitch. I know that's more how people make money off Twitch. But good question. That's a pretty good idea. Any other ideas, or you guys have anything else that you think that would be a good idea? Trying to think of other ideas that might have people interested. I don't really think selling food is a good option right now because I think that's kind of sketchy, but potentially, what else is there? Trying to think of something that's easy. I think tutoring is probably the easiest right now to do, just because I'm assuming a lot of you. What would programming outside of tutoring look like? Oh, tutoring, like, I would say just doing basic courses, like introductory stuff. I used to get paid to teach people Minecraft and play like Minecraft code with them and teach them how to make like colored blocks. I got paid $25 an hour. And then some people, like some of my friends, told me they would do $100 private sessions of Minecraft, and they made some pretty good money off of teaching kids Minecraft. That's because I don't know why people would pay that, but they did. But it's kind of you do really introductory stuff, like probably with Python or Scratch. A lot of people like that if you're doing like little kids. Scratch is probably the easiest to do with like, someone below second grade. But a lot of people pay like 25 to 30 bucks. That's pretty common for like an hour. But I think if you want to do like advanced programming, you just kind of start building it. I know friends that they like help them make a website, but they do it more from like scratch. So they do like HTML, but then they get like a product in return because then this kid has their website. But you kind of just break it down until, evolving into something where usually you make something at the end, like a game. But yeah, programming, if you have programming skills, it's very good. How about YouTube? Or is that like a lot of social media and fan based? Yeah, I would say YouTube is very, very iffy in the sense of you have to have, I think, 1,000 what is it? It's like 1,000 subscribers and like some amount of views to get your channel monetized, which means that they put ads in your videos. So that is, if you already have a following or you're already into it, like that's why you'll see a lot of Twitch, or not Twitch, Twitch and TikTok people. A lot of them have YouTube channels on top of their TikToks because TikTok, you really don't make money unless if it's ad product placement. Where YouTube, they just make videos of their TikToks and get paid, and they just leave them up because YouTube is kind of a thing of like, I can post a video on YouTube and it will be on YouTube for years, and then I can still hypothetically make money off the video for 5 years. But it's a lot of fans, and yeah, it is a lot of social media, and or you do something outrageous, or you're just really funny to watch. Is typically, I actually know the person who's Filthy Frank too, if you've ever heard of that YouTube person, and I think his video had like 1 million people, or he had like 1 million views, but he's like, yeah, I never monetized it, so I never got paid for all those views. And we're like, dude, okay, but yeah, I do know who Filthy Frank 2 is, and I think that's really interesting. I think he has like 100,000 subscribers or something, so that's interesting. How do you promote a service order to younger artists that don't have social media? You post it on usually like Facebook groups, because when you're targeting like a younger audience, that's usually your target. You have to think about their parents. That's who you're really marketing towards, is towards parents, not kids. Um, Joji, I don't know. I know Mr. Boa, so I don't really know, but I used to work with him because he would have his Filthy Frank stuff too. Stuff I don't know. I never watched Filthy Frank, but that was kind of a yeah. I do know him. It was funny because we talked about his videos. Um, but yeah, younger artists, you're really targeting towards their parents, because that's who's gonna pay you. Kids don't have money; it's the parents. So that's kind of when you talk to parents, and that's why it's really good to network with people about, hey, I know how to do this. If your kid needs help, blah blah blah. All the jobs I ever got on entertainment is because I talked to people. It's not because I'm the best at. I'm not the best at robotics. I'm not the best at all. It's more about I knew the right people to say, hey, Amanda knows how to do this very specific skill. That's more what it is. So far, skills less. So give out a service part and more. So teach it, which I guess is teach. Yeah, I would say, I would say it's more teaching is probably the easiest way to go, because if you're not super skilled, people being like parents of friends. Yeah, people with parents of friends. That's how like my friends have done private tutoring. They say, oh, I have a daughter or slash son that's 10 years old and wants to get into coding. And you say, oh, I have skills. I can help them code. Do they play Minecraft? And then they say, oh, Minecraft. And then you say, oh, I can help them really, play a game they really like, and then also help them code. So it's that's how I've taught little kids, like 10-year-olds, yeah, 8-year-olds. That's more that service and skills, unless if you want to do like projects, like you want to do CAD, you know how to CAD really well, and you want to, people are going to ask, hey, can you make me this bike? Can you make me this toy, XYZ? And you'll be like, okay, yeah, it's going to take me X hours, blah, blah, blah. That's usually, though, when you get more skilled. That's kind of like doing projects for people. And same with websites. If people ask, like, oh, I want you to build me a website, that's probably very common. A lot of people don't know how to do it, and you're going to say, okay, I can build you a website. Here's how long it's going to take, and here's how much money. Those type of stuff, though, like, I prefer working at night, so it's kind of, I prefer to do stuff, at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. versus 8 a.m. in the morning. So with teaching, it's more you have to find times for people to, get online and, work with you. So it's kind of more, you're going to have to build your schedule around it, versus where projects you can just do whenever, as long as you usually say, oh, I'll do it in 3 days. You have 3 days to do it. It's a lot more on your time, and I know a lot of people do things last minute, which is okay. I just suggest not, but I am the person that used to get up at 3 a.m. and do essays that were due that day, because I don't like writing essays. So I get it. That's good questions, though. People, any other questions about, starting ideas or starting a business, or what, could help you guys? But I would definitely say service ones, you don't have to have any money to start with them, because it's just your skills. And, maybe you talk to a couple people. You don't actually have to invest money into it. But I think a lot of teams, you need to, like, because I know a lot of schools are cutting funds and cutting programs, so it's very important that people start, thinking about what they're going to do for their teams. And I know registration, I think, is $275, and then we reduced ours to $50. So I mean, it is cheaper this season, but if you what you want, new tools, you want new supplies, that adds up very quickly. I think the hubs are still okay. I don't think you have to buy new rev hubs, but if you want the new ones, it's, I think, like 200 to 250. If you want the ones that you don't have to connect with the phone on the robot, where it's just one phone now, it's supposed to have better connection. But we'll see. Good questions, though. Any other questions? Any other questions? Leave it up for like a couple more minutes. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming.